Hello there, internets, and welcome to Around the Farm, the podcast about all things ag. I'm your host, Rick Myrup, and on today's live show, we're going to be talking about advances in digital farming at the Climate Corporation. And we're going to catch up with a few special guests, so stay tuned. All right, let's get this party started. For the first time in Around the Farm history, we're coming to you live via the magic of the internet. And I'm not here alone on set. Joining me, socially distanced, seriously, we're actually 6 feet apart up here, is the Climate Corporation's Chief Science Officer, Brian Lutz. But before we jump into the conversation with Brian, let's talk about how you can get in on the action. 2020 has been, let's call it a less than exceptional year, and that's probably being generous. But it has prompted us to try some new things and to try different ways to connect. So Around the Farm is accepting the challenge. Not only are we live, but in a few minutes, we're going to start taking questions from you live. So be sure to submit all your questions about climate's digital innovations from this year's Farm Progress Show. We're going to be monitoring the comments, so feel free to answer those questions in there. But before we dig into the Q&A, let's learn a little bit more about today's guest, Brian Lutz. So, Brian, I'm not sure how this is the first time you've been a guest on Around the Farm, but it is. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about how you went from farm family to the Chief Science Officer at the Climate Corporation?
You bet, Rick. And hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited for this. I started as a farm kid in Ohio. I grew up farming in Northeast Ohio with my family. We farmed there for 4 generations, just over 100 years. After I grew up on the farm, I went off. I had an academic career. I went to college. I studied biology. I studied geology. I really studied soils and carbon and nitrogen, how nutrients move through the environment. I actually was a professor for a few years, so I had an academic career, and I left academia so I could actually get back into agriculture. Went back to farming with my family for a few years, and that was right around the time that all of this started happening in digital ag, bringing new science into agriculture, and I wanted to be part of it. And so I joined Climate about 5 years ago, and have had a variety of roles in our science organization, and now have the great opportunity to be able to lead our science group and drive a lot of the innovation that comes through FieldView.
I just want you to know that from now on, you're Professor Lutz to me. I mean, I'm picturing you in the smoking jacket, the elbow pads, the pipe, the whole nine, buddy. Professor Lutz, that's who I've got you as.
I can guarantee you I never fit that stereotype.
Well, Brian, 2020 has been anything but normal. I mean, normally you and I would be visiting with farmers at the Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa. It's about lunchtime, so we would have just enjoyed an amazing pork tenderloin sandwich. I got to be honest with you, I really miss the pork tenderloin sandwich, but I digress. With Farm Progress going all virtual this year, what can our listeners look forward to seeing in Climate's virtual experience?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite times of the year, in large part because of the show. It's too bad we can't get up there to see people in person this year, but despite that, we've got some really great content in the virtual tent. So we're going to walk folks through the seasons, right? How they can use FieldView to do a lot of their planning early before the spring, how they can use our scripting tools at planting time, how they can use our scouting and in-season field health tools to monitor the crop throughout the season. And of course, my favorite time of year, harvest, and really when the yield data starts coming in, how to use our FieldView and yield analysis tools to understand what was driving yield in their fields this year and to gain some of those insights that'll help us get better year over year.
That's really interesting, and not to use an ag pun, but let's dig in there. Can you tell us a little bit about how your team is developing these innovative solutions that are simplifying digital ag and helping farmers to do more on-farm trials and better understand what works for their operations?
Yeah, you bet. So, within the science group, there's really 2 things that we do to help make FieldView better for our customers day in and day out. The first bucket is that we develop agronomic models, right? So we take all the data that we can get our hands on, weather data, soils data, satellite, remote sensing data. We combine that with farm-specific information. And we're really trying to develop that set of insights that can help identify the best seed to plant on each field, how to distribute seeds across fields with variable rate seeding recommendations. Increasingly, we're working on crop protection products. We've got a lot of great new pilots like Trial Advisor that we're launching, driven by these agronomic models. And then the second thing that we do is we develop the tools to make FieldView better, right? So the products and the features, the functionality in FieldView. One of the things that we're investing a lot in recently, we've got our yield analysis tools that has just had tremendous engagement from our customers, how to do simple analytics with yield data. But we're building that out into a new set of capabilities, which we call Performance Platform, really helping farmers run experiments very, very seamlessly, very easily on their own operations to get the best insights about how products are performing for them.
You know, that's really awesome. And hey, we've always been good at collecting data in ag, but there's so much data being created now, it's sometimes hard to understand what it's even telling you. You know, you mentioned that your team is working on Trial Advisor to help farmers to improve their understanding of testing, performance, and to leverage data modeling to be able to do that. Can you tell us a bit more about how Trial Advisor is going to help and benefit farmers?
Yep, so Trial Advisor really takes advantage of our seed placement modeling, helping to understand what seed's going to be perform best for each farm. You know, one of the biggest challenges that we have, and it's really driven by the tremendous innovation that's come out. If you think back, 10, 20 years ago, the seed that we had even then can't compare to what we have today. Really, every 4 or 5 years, as we continue to push better and better seed to the market through our breeding programs, every 4 or 5 years, you've got to get turned on to that new hybrid that's going to do really well for your operation. So Trial Advisor is a program that takes information about each individual farm and looks at the products that are doing really well, and uses data-driven recommendations to help place that next product on your operation that we think you're going to have a lot of success with.
You know, it's crazy to think about the pace of innovation, right? You talk about, every 4 or 5 years, there's new hybrids out there. You're having to move that along more quickly to keep up on the yield curve. I mean, you even think about what ag was 10, 15, 20 years ago, the equipment that was available, how much more equipment and monitors and metrics we have on planters these days, on combines. It's really fascinating and crazy to think about how far we've come in such a short time in ag.
Sometimes you just have to take a step back and realize how fast things are changing. We take for granted that we're collecting all these data now. But again, 10 years ago, it was a different game.
It really speaks to how well and how quickly farmers adapt to technology, right? I mean, this is not a group of folks that's very stagnant. There's always new things coming. They're always on the cutting edge and always adapting these new innovations into their operation.
That's right. Every weekend I talk to my dad and brother. I'll call my dad and he'll tell me, hey, one thing, and then my brother's telling me another. They realize just how fast things are changing. My brother's adopting all of this technology. It's really shifting the way that things are happening quickly.
I'm always encouraged that you get so much of this feedback from your dad and your brother, because some people may, they may sugarcoat the truth for you a little bit, but when it's coming from dad and brother, you're getting the absolute truth from those guys.
That's one thing I can guarantee, is that there has never been any sugarcoating from my dad or brother. Yeah.
Well, hey, Brian, your team is also working on some tools that help farmers with in-season threats as well. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how climate is helping farmers to make decisions about the right inputs to protect their acres?
Yep. So, we're investing a lot more of our time and energy into crop protection as well, really trying to build out on that front. One of the things that I always found to be among the hardest decisions to make is whether or not you should use a fungicide, for example. It's not among the cheapest of the inputs, but it can be one of the best return on investments. But it's really figuring out when you need to make that application. So we're taking all of our proprietary seed and genetic data, as well as weather data and soils data, management practices, pulling all that together into predictive models so we can help take a lot of the guesswork out of whether or not you should start to use or when you should use some of the crop protection products.
Well, taking a step back from technology just for a moment, as somebody that spent your whole life in ag, I know that agriculture is near and dear to your heart. And you recently wrote an open letter about the resilience and commitment of farmers. Can you tell us a little bit about that message and what you were trying to convey to the public?
Yeah, you bet. So, COVID's been a very difficult situation for everyone. It's affected just about all industry segments. But if you think back just a few months ago, we had empty meat coolers, we had grocery store shelves being emptied, and on a day-to-day basis, I think unfortunately we tend to take farmers for granted and the fact that we can rely on that food. And but during this challenge, farmers have really shown their resilience. They've kept our grocery store shelves full, and that's made this it could be a lot worse if we didn't have the resilience of farmers. And so, what small role I can play in just trying to call attention to this and to make sure that people are aware of just how much we depend on farmers, I try to take those opportunities whenever I can.
You think about it, they are the true essentialist of essential workers, right? I mean, they're feeding the world, they're helping us to make sure that we have that food security. It's really important that we take an opportunity to thank those folks that are doing so much for the broader society.
That's right. We've got to keep ag strong.
Well, hey, that's an amazing message, and it is very true in these times that farmers are the drivers behind our food security. We really appreciate you bringing that to the attention and getting that word out there about all the vital work that the farmers are doing in the countryside. Now, I could pepper you with questions all day, but we have a whole audience of folks out there on social media that has some questions for you. So, for the first time in Around the Farm history, let's take some questions from the live stream. Now, remember, if you have a question for Brian, all you have to do is enter it into the comment section, and we will get that up on the screen and see if Brian can answer that for you. So, through the magic of technology, let's go to the first question. Tom Beachman at the Indiana Prairie Farmer would like to know, what policies does the Climate Corporation have in place to make sure that data which farmers collect remains confidential? Have there been any recent changes, or are there any changes planned?
Yeah, we've really led the industry when it comes to setting very high standards for data privacy. It's a paramount concern for us. The data that come into FieldView, they're always the farmer's data. Only the farmer can share those data with someone else. We've made some adaptations to our privacy policy as we've moved through time, as everyone has. Some of the adaptations we've had is that we can, use the data to help with some of these pilots that I mentioned, like making sure we're doing everything we can to help you use your data to get the next best seed on your farm, or to make the most out of your crop protection products. But really everything that we do with the data, it starts with the fact that you own your data, and that really we can only help you use your data to drive more value.
Yeah, and I know that the Climate Corporation is really focused on data privacy, really focused on being a good steward of data for farmer customers that they partner with. I'd encourage anybody that would like to learn more to visit us at www.climate.com. We've got our data privacy policy out there and have a lot of great information that you can use to learn more about how your data is being protected and the value that you get for sharing that with the FieldView platform. So let's head to the next question here. We've got one from Twitter, Matt M. Storby. Hey, Storby, how you doing? Thanks for submitting a question. When will a usable predictive model come for field moistures in corn or soybeans?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. And hey, Matt, this wasn't pre-staged, but Matt's a good guy. I've known Matt for years. We've worked with moisture modeling for a couple of years now. We don't really have a plan to launch it in the product soon, but like always, Matt, hey, my number. Give me a call sometime. Happy to talk it through, see what we might be able to do with you on that front.
This might be an Around the Farm first. We're actually making live connections on air here. I guess this is the beauty of the live stream. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. Common question we get, Brian, is the Trial Advisor Brian Lutz mentioned only for corn, or is it also for soybeans? That's from Gil Gullickson from Successful Farming.
Yeah, so right now we're focused on corn. We are starting to develop the same types of models for soy that we would need to enable Trial Advisor for soy. It's going to be a little bit longer, a little bit further out. Maybe look for that another year or two out, but we're pushing hard on corn right now for 21.
All right, and we'll move to the next question here through the magic of technology. We've got I. Bowers from YouTube wants to know, how does Climate use my data that I upload?
Yeah, so when you think about being able to really tailor a recommendation to your field, we can build models based on our R&D data to understand how products are going to perform, but we need to know, for example, are we going to have a corn seed that performs really well on a high organic matter soil versus a low organic matter soil? We need to know what the organic matter is of your fields, right? And so that's really how most of the data that's coming in through FieldView is being used. Increasingly, we are starting to look across all the farms everywhere, right? Because we only have so much R&D data. And, one of the things that my dad always told me when I was young, right, is, it's great that happened in the plot data, but the plots are different than some of our fields. And so, as we get more data, we can start to bring all the data together into models so that we can make the best recommendation for each year or for each acre. But it's really just about using the data to drive those predictive recommendations that are going to lead to more success on each of our customers' fields.
It is cool that technology has allowed us to get to this, right? That's always been a common complaint that we hear from the countryside about plots. Is it's not my farm, it's not my operation. I don't know what they did. I don't know what part of the field that was. As we get more into digitalized technologies, farmers really have the opportunity now to have a full suite of testing on their own operation and to really set that up and understand it in real time. And what's exciting is some of these new innovations coming to be able to be even more efficient with that testing and learn more about what works and what doesn't.
That's right. And, there's a lot of truth to that because, just look down when you're maybe flying over the countryside, you can see just how much variability there is from field to field. And so, that long-standing concern that, hey, maybe a plot doesn't represent my field, the only way to get past that is to, get some of the data that you have on your field conditions and plug them together with these models to get the recommendation that's really right for you.
All right, let's get to another question here. Another question we get that came in is, how is the pandemic affecting your family farming operation?
Yeah, so, earlier this spring, I was having conversations when all of this was happening with COVID with my dad and brother. And of course, like a lot of folks, I think they were worried about whether or not they would get sick. Unlike us, working in bigger companies, we don't, my family doesn't get sick time. If they fall ill, there's not someone else to just step in and do all the work. And so that was one of the big concerns. But fortunately, my family stayed healthy. One of the bigger concerns that they have right now, to be honest, is the impact that COVID's having on the commodity markets, right? A lot of our grain still goes into biofuels. We farm in the Eastern Corn Belt. Almost all of our corn goes to ethanol plants, and there's not as many of them out there as there are maybe in the I-states. And so, there are some concerns about the long-term impacts that COVID might have on ethanol consumption, and that's just something that we're going to have to see how it plays out. I really do hope, though, we always have to invest in supporting the ag commodity markets, looking for new uses for grains, looking to support the ethanol industry, because really that's what shores up. That's what makes ag strong, is to make sure that we're finding uses for grains that are going to keep prices healthy.
Brian, I can't believe we made it this far into the show before you mentioned Ohio, and I really can't believe you haven't taken the opportunity to point out the fact that there's really only one football team in the entire Big Ten that matters, and it happens to be from your home state, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple other teams that they warm up on before they go play the guys in the SEC.
That's right.
Cue all of the hate mail in the live stream about just slamming every school, every football school in the Big Ten. Let's get back to the questions before that happens. Hey, Tim Shanks from Facebook would like to know: when will we get to a time that climate tells us our fields are ready for harvest based on maturity?
Yeah, so that kind of ties back into Matt Storby's question a little bit, looking at the harvest moisture. Like I said, these are things that we've worked on. We've done, we've talked to farmers. It's been a little bit of hit or miss about the feedback that we get on things like harvest timing advice or some of the predictions around harvest moisture. It sounds like, based on these questions, maybe it's something that we should go back and revisit and think about how maybe we move up that prioritization queue, because this is something that we've tinkered with on models to be able to try to do.
Good deal. Let's get to our next question here. Waiting for that to come in. Here we go. We've got another one from Facebook. What features do you have on the front? What features do you have on the front of yield monitoring or upcoming research? So I think they're asking, what's coming in the yield monitoring section, or what do we have coming in the future?
Yeah, and maybe I'll take that to mean our yield analysis tools. So hopefully I'm on point there. Yield analysis, again, it's one of our most popular set of product features, mostly because it makes it so easy to be able to look for those insights in your yield data. One of the things that I know my brother really enjoys most about FieldView is the ability to run split planner trials. With FieldView as compared to some other software or other platforms, there's a lot of sort of jockeying around of your data cards or processing in the monitor to be able to run those types of trials. With FieldView, we make it seamless, of course, with it all syncing to the cloud, automatically just intersect which hybrid is yielding which, so you can make those comparisons on the fly. But as I mentioned, we're also building out the set of product features that we're calling Performance Platform to take those yield analysis tools to the next level, so that you don't have to do all of the work to structure experiments and to be able to find those types of insights. These set of tools are going to make a lot of that seamless and automated.
All right, we're going to get one last question in here before we get to our next special guest. Question just came in. I've heard I can get FieldView Plus for free by signing up for Bayer Plus. How's that work?
That's right. So, Bayer Plus has been a great program to be able to get, more value for your seed and chemistry. But we're also bringing FieldView into that. So Bayer Plus customers, my brother just signed up earlier this summer. Either if you're a new customer, you can get a year of FieldView for free by signing up for Bayer Plus. Or if you're an existing customer, when you hit that renewal date, you automatically get a free year of access to FieldView.
It's awesome. It's nice and easy. Nothing beats free, right?
Simple.
Well, hey, we're going to have some more time for questions a little bit later in the show. But right now, it's time for a quick word from our sponsors. Well, our sponsor, I mean, it's a climate video, but sponsor sounds better, right? So anyway, go ahead and cue up that video while we get our next special guest ready.
We farm in Morris, Illinois. It's about 60 miles southwest of Chicago in Kendall and Grundy counties, and we farm corn and soybeans. I think it's a great career to have. It's more than a career, it's your life, really. And to raise a family on the farm is pretty important. Our kids have sure enjoyed growing up on the farm, and maybe their kids will someday. It's just been part of all of our lives. And I would never want it any different than what we've done. I guess I'm a fourth generation farmer. My dad farmed all his life, and I grew up farming with him. And learned a lot from him, and still learn a lot from him each day. Father-son operation is just an ideal partnership, really. He does things different than I do, but it's a good team effort that he brings the experience to it. But there's changes that need to be made in farming, just like any business. So the technology that we brought on, I've kind of did that, and it's worked out very well for our operation. We've used FieldView for the last 3 seasons. We started mapping with FieldView, and then once we saw what it could do on the yield analysis end of things and how they've improved it, we use yield analysis on every field, and there's information that you can gain from every field. And we use it for decision making on a variety of things. We use it for nitrogen population, varieties, placement of seed, for which seed to select. You put all that together, and it has a big effect on our bottom line. Well, when it's time for harvest, you want to just combine. You want to keep the combine going all the time. And it used to be when we did test plots took forever. Where now when we map them with the planner, it tells you all the information you want. Combine never stops, and that's what you want to, during harvest. You want to be as efficient with your time as you can. We've got a very good FieldView dealer that calls us up before spring and before fall and makes sure everything's ready to go, because once it's ready to combine or once you're ready to plant, you want everything to go without any problems whatsoever. So she's there to make sure that happens. And if we have any questions in season, she'll either answer that question right away, or if she can't answer it, she'll find the answer and get right back to us. I wouldn't consider myself whatsoever on the cutting edge of technology, but I'd say from the farming aspect of it, you have to be. So I've tried to adopt what we needed to adopt and learn what we needed to learn, because it's a huge part of the future. And yield analysis with FieldView is very simple, which is nice. That's what we're looking for. So we can see that after harvest or even during harvest. It's all right there together, and it's very easy to look at, and it's just a tool that we wouldn't want to be without, and the information we get from it is just amazing.
Welcome back. I'm excited to bring another first-time guest into Around the Farm, Bayer Crop Science's Chief Operating Officer, Brett Begemann, who's joining us live via Zoom. Brett, thanks so much for joining us Around the Farm. For those of our listeners who don't know that much about you, could you tell us a bit about your background?
Yes, good afternoon. It's great to be with you. I'm from Western Missouri. I grew up on a farm there, and after going to Mizzou, I joined Monsanto, and I've been in the ag industry through Monsanto and Bayer for the last 38 years. And I still own the family farm back home, as well as a little acreage around there. So I still got my hands in farming, but have enjoyed all the opportunities in the industry working with farmers around the world.
Well, hey, Brett, I know you're a big supporter of Mizzou football, so it's only appropriate to throw out there an MIZ.
ZOU.
Right on cue. Doesn't miss a beat. Hey, as much as I'd love to discuss the start of the college football season, I'm going to bring us back to the topic at hand. I know that as the Chief Operating Officer for one of the largest ag companies in the world, you've got to juggle a couple of things from time to time, right? How do you go about staying grounded with what's happening out there in the countryside?
Well, I have to tell you, there's absolutely no substitute for finding the opportunities and making the opportunities to talk with farmers. That keeps you grounded to the reality of the issues and challenges that they're facing, and nowadays they're immense. And it doesn't hurt that I still farm myself and I share crop with a number of farmers, and they keep me real as well, because they have a tendency to give me the straight feedback on my own operation. So it's good to stay connected. It's really important, and my team does a great job of sharing what's going on with the farmer customers and keeping me informed, and I much appreciate that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. We were talking with Brian earlier about the feedback he gets from his dad and his brother on his family farm, and there's always that realism that comes from when you get that feedback from the people that you're working with on farm, from your family members. So it's always good to stay grounded with that real life feedback from those that are close to you.
Yeah, that's very important. My family still has a number of farmers embedded in it, and they kind of have a way of giving you the unvarnished truth. They don't hold back much, and which I truly appreciate. And it's always great to connect with them and hear directly from them what they're experiencing, and that it really helps me in my day job.
Well, hey, Brett, just changing gears a little bit. Earlier in the show, we were discussing how farmers can access FieldView Plus for free by linking their Bayer Plus and their FieldView Plus accounts. But that offer isn't really about getting FieldView Plus for free. It's more about creating new value for farmers today and in the future by helping them to get more connected. And that connectivity will allow Bayer to bring farmers new value through things that Brian had talked about earlier this morning, like Trial Advisor, Performance Platform, Advanced Hybrid Selection, and even in carbon. From your perspective, Brett, how does digital farming fit into the larger picture of Bayer? And what role does digital play in how Bayer is going to deliver new value to farmers in the future?
Yeah, digital transformation is actually a pillar of what we're building the new Bayer Crop Science business on as we brought the two companies together. And we strongly believe that digital is going to have a huge impact on our industry. It has on many of us personally as we go about our personal life, whether you farm or whether you're a consumer working in industry like me. Digital is all around us, and that's going to impact agriculture just like it did the rest of the industries. And we fundamentally believe that as we can get more data for a farmer in one place where they can look at the data from their operation, that they can draw those insights out of that data, and it informs them in making better and better decisions to continue to optimize their overall operation. And I'm absolutely convinced it's going to make a big difference for our farmer customers, and it helps us. If we can help them, it helps us, because at the end of the day, our success is going to be embedded in how much we can do to help farmers.
Well, wow, it sounds like the digital is going to be a core part of how Bayer Crop Science delivers value to customers in the future. Brett, I know you've got to run, so we're going to get you out of here on this question. If you look into your crystal ball, what do you think the farming experience of the future is going to look like as it relates to being able to tailor solutions to farmers' specific operations and the digital technologies that we'll need to be able to provide that level of service?
Well, I have to tell you, I've been in the industry for going on 40 years and really all my life, if you consider growing up on the farm. And I've watched crop protection products become more prominent. I've watched seed and biotechnology come along, and now we're in the digital and analytics age. And I have no doubt in my mind, digital and data is going to change agriculture more than the previous innovations have done. So I'm absolutely in the camp that says data is going to be a big, big part of agriculture going forwards. And I just want to be a part of it with farmers. And I encourage all the farmers out there to work with us, keep giving us feedback, keep giving us insight. And this is all about how do we help get data in one place to help a farmer do a better job of analytics. And in many cases, that may be somebody else using that data too, not just us, because it's the farmer's data. And they have the value in it, and it should be going back to them and helping them drive their overall operation. And I'm absolutely convinced that it's the way of the future, and I hope we can be a part of that in helping farmers around the world make that happen.
You know, Brett, you just said something there about farmer feedback, and you know, it always resonates with me that so many of our best ideas come from talking to folks out in the countryside, and you know, we learn so much from them about what's challenging them, where there are opportunities for us to be focused as a company, and it really is an exciting time for ag. We're on the cusp of so much innovation that's really going to transform the industry in the coming years. So, hey, I know you've got to run. Thanks so much for joining us for our first live episode of Around the Farm. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we let you go?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say to all farmers out there that are doing business with Bayer, thank you for the business. It's you doing business with us that allows us to invest in these new technologies that hopefully can bring value to you in your operations. And we believe it's a partnership that we work together to make that happen. I also recognize in North America it's harvest time, and it's a very busy time of year. It's a stressful time of year, and it's a risky time of year. So be careful out there. And I wish all farmers the absolute best with their harvest coming up. I hope they get great results and get ready and set for another year to come. And hopefully Bayer and FieldView can be a part of that in helping them prepare for next year.
Well, thanks again, Brett. We really appreciate you taking some time to answer some questions with us. Brian, I hope you're rested and ready to go. The booth, I think, is telling me that we're going to one more video message from one of our sponsors here. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to, I believe, Copper, the farm dog.
My name's Sean Cand. I'm owner and operator of Backroads Consulting. I've got a 4-year-old Labrador Retriever named Copper, who is my companion dog. With him helping me, I scout 19,000 acres in the Owensboro, Kentucky area. I enjoy spending my days with him. We brought him home, and he's been a big part of the family ever since. A lot of people are inherent to different breeds of dogs, but I love the Lab breed. He has a blue collar, and he only wears that collar when he leaves the house to go with me. So I get up in the morning, and usually I hear Copper get up. Copper's already trying to get the collar off the chair. It'll hang in his mouth, for maybe 20 minutes while I'm getting ready, because he knows until that collar goes around his neck, he's not leaving the house. All my customers know him. They enjoy when he's there. He's just a good all-around companion to have during the day. He lets me know when he's thirsty. We've got a little system. Just keep the cooler full of ice, and as it melts, and I can fill up that bowl for him, and he'll drink his fill and then take running off again. There's a few days where we'll run real hard and be busy, and the next morning, he's not going after his collar. He's telling me that I need a day off, so I won't take him with me. Dogs have their own language. You just got to be observant enough to know what it is. I'm paid to be observant and to notice things that happen in the crop and address it. A farm dog is like FieldView. They're reliable, dependable. I really do like FieldView that it gives me a lot of information. I know what they've planted. I know what varieties are where. I can bring that information up and be able to go to those specific areas. The value he brings to my day is a companionship, loyalty, and time is important to me. And so is my growers' data and information to be able to help them make really educated decisions on a farm.
Copper's just adorable, isn't he? Who doesn't love a farm or a dog video on the internet? I actually think that's 75% of what the internet is nowadays is dog videos.
I'm a dog fan.
Well, there you go. Well, hey, Brian, I hope that you're rested and ready to go. Professor Brian, the sabbatical is over. It's time to get back to the viewers' questions via the magic of social media. Just a reminder to everybody that's out there, if you have any questions that you'd like to answer, go ahead and put those in the comment section of any of our live streams, and we'll get those out here for Brian to answer. So, back to the Q&A. Michael Childress from Facebook would like to know, just a note of thanks for implementing as applied data from sprayers into Climate FieldView. This is one additional step to efficiency to do side-by-side trials of various products.
Hey, that was actually something that I've been pushing for a while too. So I'm glad that we can get it out there to the marketplace. There's more we want to be able to do with our as applied data. We're going to keep improving all of the both data collection, data entry around as applied. And like I mentioned with these performance platform tools that we're developing, that's also going to unlock a lot of new ability with as applied data.
Got another question from I. Bowers from YouTube. What excites you from a technology perspective as we head into 2021?
Yeah, there's a lot on the horizon. I would say that it's really where we are with taking the agronomic models to a new level. So as I mentioned, we're really able to, as more data comes into the FieldView platform, we're able to see how things perform across a much broader range of conditions. As we were talking about the plot data earlier, plots, they don't represent the whole world out there. But then we can see how different products are performing under different conditions or different management practices, and that's what really lets us help get the models so that they're not just representing plots, they're representing the real world conditions that farmers are seeing, and we're able to make those really custom recommendations to each set of conditions and set of management practices.
That's why you're the Chief Science Officer at the Climate Corporation, Brian. You get a question about what you're looking forward to the most in 2021, and you gave a straight answer. I'm not going to lie to you. I immediately went to, I'm excited about 2021 simply because it's not 2020 anymore. It's time for 2020 to be over. We can move past that one. So
I hope it's only up from here.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, let's get to our next question here. Can you give us an idea of the time frame of when we will see some of these new innovations?
Yeah, so that's the thing is now with so many different features and aspect to the product, we're launching these enhancements continuously, and so some of them you're going to see, you'll see here in the next few months, and you'll see throughout the course of 21. We're also, as we've mentioned with programs like Trial Advisor, we're really bringing the models together with some great Bayer programs, and so. Things like Trial Advisor, that's an example of how we're able to bring our seed placement model together with some great marketing incentives. And so, I encourage you to reach out to your FieldView reps, reach out to your seed dealers, talk to them about, what's going on with FieldView in your neck of the woods, because it's going to be just a little bit different as you move from one region to the other, based on what we have available and where the models are at in different areas. We're hoping to get it all everywhere eventually, but just connect with your people on the ground, and they'll be able to tell you what's coming to you in 21.
Well, it all moves fast, right? I mean, it's evolving quickly as these things are developed. But we often talk about what's coming next, right? What are the next innovations coming? But I like to remind people, we've talked a lot about data. In order for these next innovations that are coming in the future to be used at your operation, the thing you've got to have today, what you can do today to enable those, is collect data. Being able to have that historical data is going to make it a lot easier for people to participate in these new things as they become available.
That's right. I mean, take, for example, some of our corn models, right? I mean, really, to be able to make a model recommendation that's really suited to your fields, we've got to have a couple of years of data to be able to get the right recommendation. And so, start collecting those data now. You can use our tools like yield analysis to do a lot of your own self-driven analytics, get a lot of great insights that way, but it lays that foundation of data for all of the the new products, new models that we're going to have in the future. And I guarantee you, in the next 2-3 years, we're going to, our models keep getting better, and we're going to be able to provide a lot of value with these models that are able to take the data that you have specific to your fields and make really great recommendations for your acres.
All right, let's bring in another question. Tim Shanks from Facebook would like to see more reports readily available instead of going to each field separately to print planting maps or harvest maps. Also, to be able to print reports of hybrid versus yield versus CSR values versus soil types. Programs like SMS have some of these reports available to print going into each map. Will we see this from Facebook? or from FieldView.
I was confused there for a moment. I don't think Facebook is going to be able to provide that in the near future. We are working on some of the reporting tools that are in FieldView. We've heard this from a lot of customers. We've got a different way of seeing some of these reports in the different apps. We're trying to improve on this front. I actually, I'm not sure that's a pretty broad swath of requests that came in the question. I'd encourage you to reach out to our support team. They can help break down those many items and help you understand what's in the queue for the near term versus maybe what's a little bit longer out.
Definitely. There's a lot of reporting in the FieldView tool today. Some of it just comes down to learning a bit more about where some of those reports are, some of the easiest ways to get those out, and going to Knowledge Center off of the Climate website is a great way to be able to learn more about how you can use the product and get the most value out of some of those reporting features that are out there.
That's right. The Knowledge Center, if you haven't been to climate.com, very easy to get your hands on some great information to learn about some of the features. Many of the things that we hear from customers are actually available. We turn them onto Knowledge Center, and next thing you know, they're doing a lot of this themselves with no hitch.
Brian, the question came in earlier around some technologies for soybeans. Question from Jonathan Evans from Facebook, wondering, will there ever be a seed advisor for cotton?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me make a bold statement. I think that where we're going with data, one day there will be an advisor for just about everything, because the reality is that there's so much that goes into a seed performing well on a given field. And there's so much ability to collect more and more data now. We're at the early stages. We're focusing on the most important crops and the most important geographies to get our feet under us. But as we move forward, it gets easier and easier to take the same methods and similar modeling approaches so that we can build out models for other crops. We just, simply in these early days, we have to prioritize where we think we're able to deliver the customer the most value. But as this snowball rolls with digital farming, I don't think that there's any crop or any management practice that isn't going to have a data-driven insight or model-based recommendation behind it in the future.
Hey, that's a good bold prediction, and I want you to know you're in the right place for that. I mean, it's not like anybody else makes bold predictions on the internet.
That's right.
That's not what the internet's for or anything, right?
That's right. This will be the first one.
All right. Now, our producers are telling me that we have time for one final question. So somebody cue Europe's The Final Countdown. Without further ado, here is the last question of the day. Can we do the same easy yield analysis for fungicide treatments as well as seed varieties? And that's from Soren Hansen off of Facebook.
Yeah, so the yield analysis tools really are pretty versatile. So you can do a region report for any equipment pass right now in FieldView. I think that there are ways that we can improve what we're doing. Right now, it's sort of manual. And so that's why we want to be able to build out this set of automated capabilities that we're working on around Performance Platform to make that super easy. But yes, you can do it today. We've identified an opportunity that we can make that even better in the future, and that's what we're working on.
It's there today. And I know that the Climate Corporation is working on some really cool enhancements to the yield analysis functionality to make it even easier to be able to evaluate that performance, to be able to look at things across your operation and really see how things worked and paid off.
That's right. Yep. I mean, it's an extremely powerful set of tools. If you're not acquainted with it, again, go into Knowledge Center, learn more about it, because you can get a lot out of our yield analysis tools.
All right. Well, Brian, thanks for being our guinea pig guest on the first live episode of Around the Farm. This has been a lot of fun. I think we're going to have to get Professor Brian back on the schedule for a future episode of Around the Farm, but next time I expect you to be in the smoking jacket, the elbow pads, the pipe, the whole nine, buddy.
I'll come back anytime, but you're not going to get the jacket.
Hey, I can dream, right? Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before the final buzzer here?
I'd just like to thank everybody. First, thanks for having me on the show, and thank everyone for the time that you spent with us today. Harvest is upon us. Brett mentioned it. Stay safe during the harvest season. And again, around the open letter I wrote, I just can't say enough. Thanks for all that you do as the farmers in this country. Thanks for your resilience during COVID, and for helping to ensure that we've got the food security that we need.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Around the Farm. I want to thank Brian Lutz and Brett Begeman again for joining us and sharing their expertise. I also want to send a special thanks to you, our live viewers. Your questions and comments have been amazing. It's been great to get to connect with you virtually, even though we couldn't be together in person. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be a part of the show. Finally, a thanks to the team at Farm Progress. This has been a challenging year for all of us, and we really appreciate all your efforts in developing this great virtual Farm Progress experience. Before you go, if you enjoyed the show today, be sure to check out all of our episodes of Around the Farm on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever else you get your podcasts. To all the viewers out there, it's been a blast, and we'll see you around the farm.